In my headcanon of the Twice lore, that ah that ooh is a narrative conclusion to their debut. They no longer need someone who can make them feel like ooh ah because they've looked inward and discovered that they already have that ah and that ooh. Where at debut, Twice was almost berating the love interest to stop playing around to make them feel like ooh ah with sincerity. That ah that ooh features lyrics like, don't need you, I do it for myself. I got something that you can't buy, and you couldn't do it like me, not if you tried. Just remain in awe of what I do, cause I got that ah, got that ooh. Twice already possesses the sincerity and fulfillment they've been looking for all this time. That is pretty much the sentiment of the This Is For album, an earnest, kind of, at times, desperate need to reconstitute. Twice, who have dedicated the bulk of their decade-long career to conducting a case study on the various facets of love, being head over heels for a man who couldn't parallel park if his life depended on it, have finally stumbled upon a moment of clarity. Twice elects for the largely atmospheric when discussing this album's themes about independence and self-confidence. More often than not, you are presented with an idea that doesn't overstay its welcome. This has its strengths on some tracks over others, in my opinion. I think songs like Hi Hello benefit from being shorter in duration due to a simple enough narrative premise, whereas songs like This Is For suffer just a bit. I could totally imagine a full-scale breakdown on This Is For, something that we as the listener could actually put our hip into, right? I know the deluxe version features an extended breakdown for the title track, but it's not exactly what I was looking for. From my own personal understanding of this album, I think it narratively benefits from not wasting a lot of space. There's a brevity in the quickness of the tracks that leads me to believe that this album is kind of a band-aid placed over a building moment of panic that's about to reach a fever pitch if we don't dance out all of our problems and really look inward for some answers to some long existing issues. We start off the album with the song 4, a signal that, of course, this is the fourth full-length project in their Korean discography. Instead of a fully realized song, 4 presents us with an array of sounds and kind of primal chants. There are few melodies in this track, and really just a series of layered vocal fragments on loop. The atmosphere is dark, we're in some kind of nightclub, and there's a tenseness in the production that alludes to something we don't know about yet. There are sparse, layered vocal sections that leave you alone in the dark with steady kicks on every beat, and of course the metal clinking percussion. It feels like someone's about to approach you at a nightclub, and whether or not the approaching silhouette is an odd character who's going to make you uncomfortable for the next hour is uncertain at this moment. But that doesn't linger. About halfway through the song's runtime, after the drums and chant-like vocals have built their pressure, something musically unexpected and soothing glides in. A soft synth chord emerges beneath the percussion and keys, simple but very striking in the moment, as if the lights of the club have finally revealed who the approaching figure is. It's Twice, here to get you up out of your seat. They aren't going to let you sit with your own misery for the whole night. You've been commanded to get up and dance with them. That is what the sudden inclusion of the keys represents to me. They don't overpower the song, they kind of, I guess, shimmer in the darkness of this track actually. Designed less to dominate the instrumental and more to uplift, establishing Twice as a safe figure who can be trusted and followed throughout this nightclub all the way to the dance floor. This, of course, brings us to This Is For, the title track of the album and the moment where we arrive with Twice to the dance floor. They pulled us out of our gloom because the perfect song was about to come on per Twice's request to the DJ. The opening synth riff of This Is For slams in. Quote, "This is for all my ladies who don't get hyped enough. If you've been done wrong, then this is your song, so turn it up." The beat narrows down to a tight, syncopated rhythm with just enough space for the vocals to cut through. Nyan and Chewy's opening delivery is crisp, voices drifting over snapping percussion and muted synth stabs, creating a sense of forward motion and exhilaration without feeling too rushed. Their tone is playful but assertive, unfurling the ethos of this entire album like a banner across a battlefield. The need to reconstitute is indeed earnest, but done so in the backdrop of a lively, mind-numbing club scene where you're not given enough silence to truly think about what all you feel in the moment. You're prompted to instead just allow these feelings to seep into the floor beneath you, replacing that gloomy understanding with the realization that you are enough in this moment. Twice is well determined to help you arrive at that conclusion, just as they have. This Is For the song is a call to arms wrapped inside of a tried and true Y2K sort of funk pop anthem, fearless and built to make you move and believe in your own power, and there's a reason why this album is named after this song. It's the first time, in their Korean discography at least, that they've ever discussed genuine heartbreak and how to recover from the end of a relationship. The rest of the album touches on the topic of the title track in greater detail, providing new ideas and feelings and perspectives to this electric moment of self-realization in the middle of a packed club. The sound, style, and presentation of this song perfectly captures both the musical heart of the album and the evolving identity of Twice as a group in 2025, the 10th year of their career. This sound mirrors their growth from bubblegum pop idols to global performers who command stages with charisma and creative control. Their transition into fully realizing themselves as artists in their own right, both individually and collectively, has not come or been replaced with any kind of sacrifice. Twice so obviously still reveres the K-pop industry with this album, their role as idols, and what all of that has been able to accomplish for them. The music video reflects these ideals perfectly. You know, Sana falling in the dance formation, the bees landing on the camera lens, the cameraman falling off the building at the start, all work as kind of reminders of this blending of fantasy and reality. The choice of real-world locations like streets, rooftops, inside subway stations, all strip away such overbearing senses of fantasy and hyper-stylization. You know, gone are the days of Chewie walking on a roller coaster track in space holding planet balloons, at least for right now. The aim of both Strategy and This Is 4 has been a curated focus on real life, urban living, practical but fashion-forward outfits, but still very strong tinges of the interest in honoring everything that's come before along with them in ways that feel meaningful and very deliberate. Twice often wear almost the same exact outfits in the music video, symbolizing their focus, of course, on unity as a group, but still finding room to express their individuality within that. We're still with a lot of smaller and subtle fantasy elements, you know, the cat with binoculars or gingerbread Mina walking around in Strategy. But all of that is still now grounded in the clear interest of existing closer to what is reality. This Is 4's empowerment doesn't intend to be some kind of dream sequence, it's happening here and now, with us as the listeners. These features seem chosen to build a bridge of solidarity, a genuineness in the performance-based project they're set to deliver us. This brings us to Options. Top 3, maybe the best song on the album for me personally right now. Options is a darker mid-tempo track with lush, again, very atmospheric production and layered synths. The violins start off the song by surprise, soft but deliberate, carrying a slightly melancholic edge to coax its way around the core of the issue that requires this moment of intervention on behalf of Twice. In the nightclub scenario that is this album, Options feels like a moment Twice takes a breather outside of the club. The quieter midnight city streets with the buzzing bass and commotion of the club just behind us. It's all layered over what sounds like a harp or maybe a harp-like synth, pulsing with muted percussion and subtle hi-hats, giving the track that tender, on-the-streets kind of feel. Vocally, Twice rides a fine line between smooth melodic verses and almost whispered delivery, bringing along a cool, introspective, but often funny tone throughout the song. Despite the elegant and dramatically lush presentation, the lyricism and its delivery doesn't take itself too seriously, outlining this almost universally tongue-in-cheek perspective that's taken from most of the album. Momo's delivery in the second verse is largely what makes this song one of my favorites on first impression. There's a growing list of Twice songs where Momo appears out of nowhere for the second verse and really turns the song up to a 10. Options' need to realize self-worth is genuine, again, kind of desperate, but it's done so in the background of intoxicating levels of self-assurance that I genuinely love. It's a heartfelt presentation about how Twice, as our narrator, is going to keep her options open. She knows her worth, knows that the love interest indeed couldn't parallel park to save his life, and so she's going to keep her options open. There has to be someone and something better out there. The next song, Mars, then takes a left turn, Twice as the narrator turns to us as the listener. Quote, "Do you ever really wonder if we are lost on Mars? Do you ever feel like you don't belong in the world, so much that you want to disappear?" Mars opens with a long and sizzling 80s synth. Bright, punchy synth stabs fire off, setting us up with a lot more momentum. Options was a bit of a breather, but the night is still young. We have a lot of dancing and introspection left to do. Mars's percussion snaps pretty sharp, of course with a hearty 80s dance pop kick. Jihyo and Nayeon soar across the post-chorus, almost yelling out, or screaming out, "We are alive." There's nothing more to this sentiment. It isn't expanded upon. We must be from another planet, given how things rarely never go our way, and genuine connections to other people seem to evade us like the plague. Mars doubles down on the spirit of friendship and camaraderie, being there for someone, and acknowledging the social pulls that cause you to be friends in the first place. There's an unspoken power to that in Mars, a sense of urgency in the song's punchiness, a reminder to fully acknowledge that you are alive in this moment. That's something to consider always, even if it feels like you don't belong in the world and nothing's going your way. Right Hand Girl expands upon this. Literally, quote, "You don't need nobody but your right hand girl." A promise of continued support and understanding, unfolding over a mid-tempo, Afrobeats leaning percussion. I'm not really sure how to talk about this. It's not my place to speak at all definitively, but I have seen discussions since 2023, honestly, about the kind of awkward adoption of different Afrobeats and Amapiano styles as musical trends, especially in K-pop, especially after a year like 2025, and especially with music producers who are of non-African ascent. I think this is where TWICE can sort of find themselves in trouble. There's a genuine power to the identity of the group being something that artistically adapts trends that are happening in the society and culture around them, like conceptually a reflection of the engaging with culture and society. However, that doesn't negate or dismiss social cues that need to be taken. Of discussions that I've seen, it does seem to resonate as inauthentic and gimmicky when these styles are applied to K-pop without proper credit given. I'm not huge on the concept of Reddit, but I did find 2 great discussions with different perspectives about this that can speak much better on this if you'd like to check that out. There's also a video I watched a long time ago by Wandy's Thoughts that I'll link as well if you want to hear more and different perspectives about this. But musically, the track grounds its sentiment with very earthy percussion, a very intimate and gentle rhythm that allows the members to express command and assurance through the dynamic of their voices. It's narratively a perfect reinforcement of the first leg of this album. Drop the man who doesn't know how to parallel park and can only keep a part-time job. If and when all of that eventually goes away and the relationship falls apart, the person who will be there for you throughout it all is your right-hand girl. After establishing the power of friendship, Peach Gelato serves as an airy confirmation of the relationship potentially turning into something more, alluding to a kind of Korosami situation going on now that Mako has been dropped metaphorically. Lyrics like, "It's on tonight, she came from out of state, what's up with your astrology, you like my style, touche, I'd put you on a chain, I'm just getting started, I can't stop, I think I like you more than a lot, text me back, I'm waiting, ... And then, come on boy, show me that stuff you got." So, I'm not really sure what Peach Gelato is really about in the end. It's at this point where the album gets a little cryptic about what actually happened with Mako, and as we'll find out, that's very intentional. But the same can be said for Korosami. They ended up keeping him in the friend group, so maybe that's what this song is about, at least in the moment. You know, he can parallel park, is emotionally stubborn and immature, but still has good intentions, maybe enough to keep him around as a friend and not a lover. The composition of the song kind of reflects this in its atmosphere. Again, airy light percussion, a focus on a crisp acoustic guitar sets us up in a beachside gelato shop, convivial among friends and the excitement for the possibility of new beginnings. But things get even more confusing with Hi Hello, where we find lyrics like, "I already talked to my girlfriend, you don't know, you're already my boyfriend. The answer's already decided, then you better start talking." So, Mako is still in the picture as a potential love interest and is just as emotionally unavailable as ever. Hi Hello is the tried and true beating heart of TWICE's larger artistic narrative. So much of their work revolves around the quite timeless issues of communication, expressing how you feel, the rejection of your intentions not coming across accurately, or simply just being ignored by the person you like. Hi Hello is a rhythmic, synth-heavy track that capitalizes on the technological soundscapes of communication in the digital age. A lot of elements in this song sound like they could be notification messages, dial tones, and so on. The vocal presentation is as playful as ever at this point, cheerfully requesting once again, simply for the love interest to not ignore them. The members sound lighthearted in their delivery of this message, but confident and very sure of their message, expressing their long history and experience in the initial talking stages of a relationship, and an eagerness to just cut to the chase where they can both be honest with each other. Perhaps Peach Gelato and Hi Hello are ultimately a last-ditch effort with Mako, a giving of one more chance before we're back at the club once again with a renewed sense of purpose. Battitude kicks off the back half of the album, which is largely composed of subunit songs. Whereas the first half of the album's tracks are short-lived, largely untethered concepts of self-love, independence, and relationships, Battitude could be the moment where she remembered who she was and everything changed. You don't have to live this way anymore, losing your mind over someone who can't parallel park. Battitude does kick in with a heavy force. If you've been a fan of K-pop for any considerable amount of time, you can feel the Demjoin's production features in the first vocal sample. It's got everything we've come to love from Demjoin's: bold and surprisingly commanding horns, booming 808s paving out a square, club-ready foundation. The instrumental works just as unapologetic as the members do. Vocals arrive on this song with the Battitude in question, flexing dominance in the nightclub, throwing the previous atmospheric focus of the album right out the window for something tangible you can sink your teeth into. If Options is number one for me right now, I think Battitude is a very close second. Something about the pulsing horns on the song and the inflection of the members comes together to make such an incredible, commanding product. Our narrator doesn't care what anyone else has to say. She's done being held down by a draining relationship and is set on inspiring everyone else in the club to recognize the worth in themselves in the same way that she does. No permission is needed in this moment and no excuses can be given. Say you want to do some things, better do some things. Shakespearean in nature, and I genuinely mean that this time. This song is prolific. And thankfully, we get a companion track to this one featuring another subunit of the remaining members in Twice. That Ah That Ooh switches places with Battitude on the dance floor, jumping in with an early 2000s R&B groove. This song uses a bouncing bass line to express the same kind of effortlessness on the dance floor with a bit more poise and elegance. As I said at the beginning of this video, kind of a perfect musical and narrative development of Understanding from their debut. In order to fall in love or embrace that potential, you must understand that part of the ooh-ah comes from within. You need to recognize the worth in yourself before someone else could help reinforce that for you. I think Battitude and That Ah That Ooh fit so nicely together on the track list, and it really makes me wish that we got, I guess, dual music videos of the subunits battling it out on the nightclub dance floor. After letting everything go on the dance floor, we arrive at a more stable-minded conclusion as we start to draw towards the end of the album. Let Love Go breezes in on a late afternoon, maybe the day after our triumphant return to the nightclub. No more second chances and no more high hellos. If Twice can let love go, they can do anything. The melodies of the song feel so conversational, maybe a return to the gelato shop, but alone this time to sit with our own thoughts. The members' vocals are confident in what they say, but are tinged with a bit of noticeable mellowness. Jungin specifically captures such a strong sense of melancholy in her words, despite how really understanding the narrative is to the plight of our narrator. It feels like maybe a sense of guilt that this realization has taken so long to come around to. It's like turning a new page of a book our narrator has been holding since debut, that a lot of these problems with relationships seem to stem from the understanding she has about herself. If I can let love go, I can do anything. There's a lot to pull from such a simple statement like this, but it all circles back to that need to reconstitute, to let everything go, look inward, and find the value inside the person who sings these songs about love and longing. This song really feels like a capstone moment in Twice's career. Perfectly composed with just the right atmosphere to shoulder the weight of realization, but also light enough in delivery to emphasize the need to hopefully not be so hard on yourself. And so, next we get G.O.A.T, or Greatest of All Time. A low-end synth works to inspire that sense of grounded confidence this album has been building up to. There's no more time for concepts of self-assurance. The anchoring snares and rolling hi-hats do a lot to establish a sense of authority in what is reality, a well-earned moment that has been in the making long before the start of this album. G.O.A.T gets surprisingly descriptive with the lyrical imagery. Keeping busy, I've been out on the road when the loneliness was taking its toll. Left me out hung to dry. Phoenix, watch me rise. Too bad that you're gone, won't see me cry. The idea of this loneliness causing a dryness and subsequently starting a fire that our narrator could rise from like a phoenix, using this moment of, I guess, ruin to achieve something greater or become something greater. But then we get to Talk, another song about communication in the thick of this past relationship. It seems our narrator has yet to move on. But to her credit, this song is a lot more analytical within her own thoughts. She's really thinking through all of this. Quote, feel like I'm on replay, every sound, every word like a DJ. It's easier to just say that you care. Now I gotta replay all the times that you went and did me dirty. If the roles were reversed, would you still put me first? This song is an up-tempo, punchy duet between Nine and G.O.A.T, taking a similar conversational approach with the former love interest. Talk may seem like a sudden treading down a road that we've been down many times before, and in some ways it is, but in one particular way it actually isn't. It does take the surprisingly conversational approach that Let Love Go did. Our narrator says all of this to the love interest this time. Talk is a narrative confrontation, kind of new territories for Twice. A dimly lit meeting with soft but punchy percussion and low bass lines to capture a sensitive, R&B focused mood. In a similar way to Let Love Go, it works as a worthy capstone to the Twice narrative. Full admittance of the barrier that's been up this entire time, and acknowledgement that between the two of them, oftentimes the hardest thing to do is simply talk to each other honestly. That leads us into Seesaw, a confessional depiction of the push and pull or balance of a relationship being compared to riding a seesaw with someone else. Soft and lightly plucked synth arpeggios create a liminal, empty online chat room vibe to this song. Twice is the only one there for right now. The love interest obviously hasn't logged on to communicate, and so our narrator is left alone once again to catalog all that she feels by the end of this album. The goal of a seesaw is to be somewhat level, at least in a relationship sense, but sometimes one person gives and the other only takes, tilting it out of balance. This song moves to suggest that actually, maybe the both of them don't know how to parallel park in a metaphorical sense. We find that the issues with communication haven't exactly been a one-sided problem, as our narrator fully admits that there's things that she hides or doesn't know how to properly express, just as the subject does. And so, there is a lot that goes unsaid between them. This is the rift that has fully severed the relationship. We can now identify as much, but the solution or silver lining in regards to communication is still very uncertain, bringing us to the final song of the album. Heartbreak Avenue may be the absolute perfect narrative and tone to end the album on. Quote, "Can't believe I'm back at square one. One turn and I'm back in your arms. Was wide open and then you dropped the ball. Now I'm disappointed. Sunshine mixed with a little hurricane. I wanna be your endgame. Should have told you from the start. Now you know I'm a little insane. I let you fool me once, but I can't let you fool me twice." Heartbreak Avenue is a magnetic blend of city pop and maybe traceable hints of lo-fi in its spacious production. Delicate guitar solos and genuinely mournful vocal delivery from the members outline this song as a moment of serious internal conflict and the longing to not make the same mistakes again, but by the end of it all, our narrator still doesn't know how to correct her own course. It's an interesting comparison at this point. Navigating love and relationships is related to taking different paths down a street in a city. Somehow, despite all of the introspection, our narrator keeps finding her way back to the subject. Maybe metaphorically it is just a common road, or maybe it's the one that feels the safest and knowable after all these years, despite the heartbreak that she knows comes with it. Our narrator is done settling and done backpedaling, but after everything we've been through on this album, these words feel so incredibly hollow. By the end, there is not a right answer, not a clean or concise way to end this look on how our narrators feel right now. This Is For as an album is more of just a cathartic release, a moment to analyze the moving parts of the cycle our narrator finds herself trapped in, but a quite vulnerable explanation of how she doesn't really know how to save herself from it. It's summarized lyrically very succinctly: "All roads lead back to you." And that is the This Is For album, at least on first impression for me. As fun as this album sets out to be, it captures the best of Twice in their most musically vulnerable moments. The heart of the Twice ethos has always been about reflecting the experiences of growing up and the widely deemed taboo feelings that come along with such tumultuous periods of emotions. To me, Twice has always been at their strongest when fully embracing ideas and feelings that tend to be mocked by people or not given enough credit. Songs like Up No More from the Eyes Wide Open album are fan favorites for a reason. Twice has long exhibited the ability to accurately recount the feeling of entering adulthood, embracing autonomy for the first time, and often being lost for answers. This Is For joins the pantheon of Twice's full-length standard albums with its own solid contributions and a declaration to push their artistry forward. It brings a familiar sense of playfulness and color back to the Twice brand after an experimental past couple of years, but also a whole new host of narrative and sonic textures to go along with it. The album lands like a confident and resounding declaration from a group that knows exactly who they are and why they've decided to stick around. Twice continues to craft impeccable soundscapes shaped by their own experiences, versatility, and fearless sense of self-expression. It's a collection of songs that thread together global sounds and rhythms, sleek pop craftsmanship, and genre-savvy production into a unified statement of purpose. It is hard to fathom completely the weight this album holds and what it all might mean for Twice's artistic identity going forward. We are 10 years in and still setting up the groundwork for new ideas and paths the group could take forward in the next decade of their career. Yeah, I am once. The effect of This Is For on first impression is striking. It redefines Twice's place in pop culture not just as idols, but as artists with a distinct voice and vision. Very hard to understate the importance I feel about this album's cohesion, and I certainly hope this is something they stick to more closely going forward. Narrative-driven projects like this suit Twice as a group so incredibly well. It leaves me energized, affirmed, and maybe most of all, believing in the power of knowing exactly who you are. You already have that ah and that ooh within you. You just need to learn to tap into it. Yes. Thank you for watching this. If you did, let me know what you think about this album. Things like its overall presentation, what are your favorite songs on first impression, and things like that. Yes, thank you so much for watching all of this to the end if you did. Subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time.